Hey, good morning, you fine, fabulous book people. It is Well Read Beard. It is a damn fine day to talk about a book. And today we're here for a book haul, a massive book haul. And I know what you're going to ask, Beard, where in the fuck are you going to put all these books? And to be honest with you, I don't know. We went to the Dollar Book Swap in Dayton, Ohio. And my wife found this on, she's been huge into reading this year. I mean, more so than normal, and been going down some book talk rabbit holes and whatnot. I don't mess with the TikTok, but anyway, and she found this place, and it's basically a warehouse just full of books, and everything's $1.25. And the TikTok makes it look super attractive, and it is really really cool. Um, I will say that you've got to dig. I mean, you're not gonna go in there looking for a specific title and luck into it. You've got to be more of a quantity over quality type person like myself. But yeah, because we go in there. My wife, she's all the time looking. Or here recently, she's all the time looking to upgrade like my Stephen King's. Like she's taking pictures, which is super cool, and she knows exactly what I have in hardcover and exactly what I don't. And when she sees them, she picks them up. And if that's not a perfect marriage, I don't know what is. But anyway, she asked if they have any Stephen King, and they're like, yeah, not really. I mean, because nobody sells Stephen King really for $1.25. But so she was kind of let down by that. But we had driven 2 hours, and of course, I'm not let down. I'm having a blast, and we really only spent 2 hours in there. I went through all the fiction, and the fiction is lined out A to Z. But the A section is then not in alphabetical order, right? Like it's just the A's. So, but you can start on one end and go through two, three, four, like 5 or 6 aisles of nothing, but probably 5 or 6 massive shelves per side of each aisle. And I went through all of that. I mean, really just kind of scanning, trying to go fast. And then they got a mystery room with a bunch of mystery stuff that I did go through. And that they had an aisle of classics and some poetry. And I tried to look at that, and that was really about the limit of what I did in 2 hours. She bought like 13 books. I bought like 60 some odd books. So I'm going to show you what I got. That's what we're here for. But I had a blast. It was fun. We went up there. We actually went to a Second and Charles afterwards, which I've never been to. And I'm not going to get up to grab these books, but I'm going to tell you quickly what I got there. I got a hardcover copy of If It Bleeds because I didn't have one. I got a copy of Blood Meridian by McCarthy. And I picked up 4 other like discount books. I got a hardcover copy of And the Sea Will Tell by Vincent Bugliosi, who wrote Helter Skelter. Never seen the book, but I got it in hardcover. Got a horror anthology called The Screaming Skull. I got a copy of Richard Bachman / Stephen King Blaze, and I got a hardcover copy of the movie tie-in, the book of Basic Instinct. Um, Anyways, so sorry, I had a message there. I was checking it. So let me show you what I got at the Dollar Book Swap. Cool place. I mean, it was a 2 hour drive for us, and I woke up on Saturday morning, and it was my wife's idea. Also amazing. Thank you very much, Prof. Witten. But anyway, let me show you what we got. So I haven't read a lot of Joyce Carol Oates. For whatever reason, she's kind of buy on site for me if I don't have it and it's a hardcover. I think she's kind of like my desert island. Like I want to have her books because one day I'm going to do a massive read through. I've started a couple, and not that they were bad. I started one called The Gravedigger's Daughter. Really, really loved the first 50 pages, but that was a weird situation where, anyway, I won't get into that because I'll be here all day long. And hopefully you'll. No, I'm just kidding. But I got The Falls by Joyce Carol Oates. Um, let's see here. So I read The Clan of the Cave Bear by Jean M. Auel. I might be pronouncing that wrong. like 20 years ago when I was doing the BBC's Top 100, it was on there. I read it. I read a lot of books I didn't like. There were some books on that list that I did like, and Clan of the Cave Bear was one of them. Like, I loved it. And I always wanted to go back in and do more of that series, and I never have. But I think I picked up the entire series minus book one, Clan of the Cave Bear, at this place. So, hardcover copy of The Shelters of Stone. um, I've been kind of talking about what am I going to do in audio now that I have finished Game of Thrones. That might be the play because I get 1 credit a month on Audible. I hate the idea of using that on a 10-hour book. That might be the play. Anyway, I got Black Dogs by Ian McEwan. I don't know if this is horror. I have seen this on the horror shelf at Half Price Books multiple times. I've read a couple of his books. Atonement is the one that I remember. I know I've read something else. I can't remember what it is. But anyway, if this is truly horror by Ian McEwan, then I don't have to tell you why I picked it up. I got Void Moon by Michael Connelly. I haven't read a lot of Michael Connelly, but I have read this book. And because it was sitting there in pretty nice condition for $1.25, yeah, I'm going to put it on my shelf and show off to nobody ever comes here. We don't, but to myself that I've read it, I guess. I got S Day by James Stewart Thayer, a novel. Excuse me. My wife teaches a Holocaust literature class. And so I don't want to be weird about this, but when we see a book with the swastika, for whatever reason, it's what is it? It's taboo. It's I don't know, and maybe I want to get canceled for saying this, but um, you know, yeah, for whatever reason, we pick up a lot of stuff that is historical fiction around that area because she teaches a class based off of Holocaust literature. So I don't know what this is about, but we picked that up. Um, I got Other Kingdoms by Richard Matheson. I believe I've read this and do not own it. I know I don't own it because I'm looking at Matheson right there. Uh, I owned it at one point. Anyway, but I grabbed this. Of course, I was going to pick up probably any Richard Matheson book for $1.25. I got a 3 novel collection of John Saul. Again, John Saul, never really read him, I don't think. I read a couple, but back in the day as a young kid, starting with King and then kind of rolling into Kuntz, John Saul was always right there in third place, for lack of a better way of putting it. And I just never really got there. But this one's got Brainchild, Nathaniel, and the God Project. I don't know. I picked up another hardcover Joyce Carol Oates called Broke Heart Blues. Um, not a lot of stuff is like right there in my wheelhouse that I'm buying at this place, but I found a Rio Ewers. Of course, love Westlake Soul. Read another one called Halcyon of his that I like. So definitely was grabbing Lola on Fire by Rio Ewers. I did not buy a lot of Dean Koontz books. I don't want you to think this is going there, but they did have a nice hardcover copy of Soul Survivor. I had no Dean Koontz on my shelves until last week, and I put a paperback copy of The Vision because I know that that's the first one that I ever read. So, like, on the drive to Dayton, actually, I was kind of updating my Goodreads because I kind of blew my Goodreads up a few years ago. I've started fresh. If you look out there, it looks like I've read like 500 books because I've only slowly been adding shit back to it. But I did go through the list of Dean Koontz books and tried to add in the ones that I knew for certain that I had read, and this is one of them. And so when I saw it in hardcover, I grabbed it. We've already talked about the Gene All books, so I got another one here, The Plains of Passage. And I'm putting these all back in a box as we show them. But picked up a Steve Berry book. I've read 3 or 4 of these back in the day. I don't know, 15 years ago, something like that. I know I've read this one because it's got a lot of, I was pretty stupid, I guess, about the actual history of Columbus. And I'm not saying this is, pure historical fiction because it's definitely not. But I learned a lot of things about Columbus in this book. But anyway, I know I've read this one for certain, so I got it to put on the shelves. Another Joyce Carol Oates, a vintage, really vintage one looking, uh, vintage looking one called Angel of Light. Jose Saramago, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Saramago. He wrote a book called Blindness. It's been on my TBR forever. It makes like top horror lists. I think it's one of those books that's kind of more horror adjacent. I don't know. I can't really speak to it. I haven't read it. But I think it's kind of about the horror of being blind. I think I'm not going to go into it, but I've got some personal eye issues, so I think I've been maybe afraid to read that book. But anyway, when I saw a hardcover by Saramago, I grabbed it. I'm trying to give you like a little bit of reasoning behind why I would pick up a book, other than the fact that they're just $1.25. I don't know that I can ever like actually give reason. Anyway, Houses Without Doors by Peter Straub. Gonna grab Straub in hardcover for $1.25 for sure. I think I owned this book at one time. I haven't read it, but Neanderthal by John Darden. I think it's horror or horror adjacent. Um, Bret Easton Ellis, Imperial Bedrooms. Of course, I've read American Psycho, and I read another one. I'm drawing a blank on what the other one was called. I haven't read this particular book, but Bret Easton Ellis is probably another definite buy at $1.25. Elmore Leonard, haven't read a lot, but Out of Sight, I know it's one of the bigger, more important titles of his, so I grabbed that. I think I've actually sold a couple copies of this, so grabbed it. I recently, just last month, read The Underground Railroad by Whitehead. I got it in paperback, so when I saw a hardcover, it's a no-brainer there. Hardcover of Sailor Song by Ken Casey, author of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Yeah, so that's a grab. Picked up another John Saul. Looks like a more modern, or at least slightly more modern. This is The Right Hand of Evil. I got a hardcover copy, which, to be honest with you, I've never seen. Um, I do a lot of looking at books, and I've never seen a hardcover copy of Close Range Wyoming Stories by Annie Proulx. This is the book that contains Brokeback Mountain. I've read it, and didn't own it. Picked up Good as Gold by Joseph Heller, the author of Catch 22, which I've read. I have not read Good as Gold. I got The Rule of Four by Ian Caldwell and Dustin Thompson. I have read this. I think I own like a crappy library copy. I can't speak English. Hold on. Anyway, I grabbed that. And then I got a hardcover of A Simple Plan by Scott Smith. I loved The Ruins. If I'm not mistaken, he's only written two books, this and The Ruins. I know this was a movie. I think it had Bill Paxton in it. I think it had Billy Bob Thornton in it. It is supposed to be a wonderful crime story. Kind of, completely, or not completely, but a lot different than the horror story that is The Ruins. But I loved The Ruins. I just picked it up in hardcover like a couple weeks ago. It is on my shelf right in front of me. And this has always kind of been on the TBR because of how much I like The Ruins. Now give me a second because I'm gonna have to reach over here and pull a whole box on top of this other one that I just loaded back up. And we're gonna show a few more things here. So we keep talking about Gene Aul. I picked up another one of these. This is The Valley of Horses. All right, so I'm going to show you some graphic novels because that's the first place I went. So, I mean, I got there. I asked if they had a public restroom. I went to the restroom because it would have been a 2-hour drive. And, like, when I came out, like, the first thing I saw was the graphic novels. So, the stuff that I grabbed there, Hap and Leonard, Savage Season. Haven't read it. Baby Teeth looked creepy. Haven't read it. Jack of Fables, Volume 1. I have read it. The Possessed looked creepy. The Rattler, I don't know. It's Image. I got a couple volumes of Ex Machina. I've read all of it. Don't own any of them, I don't think. I got March Book One, John Lewis. Got one called The Big Country. I got Regression Volume 2. I have read that. I got Black Cross. I got Snapshot. I've read. And I picked up Morning Glories Volume 1. I have also read that. So we still got a whole nother box of books, people. I appreciate you being here. I got The Bridegroom Stories by Ha-Jin. This was kind of a win buy. Like, this is one of those books where I was like, I think I've heard of that. I think that's supposed to be a good book. It's in hardcover. I should buy it. I don't know. Philip Roth. Another, I think I've read American Pastoral, but a long, long time ago, and I need to reread it. But I bought 4 or 5 Philip Roth books here. Exit Ghost by Philip Roth. I got Richard Brodigan, Willard and His Bowling Trophies. I thought this book was a bit more rare and possibly valuable. I've read like 3 books by Brodigan. It's been a long time. But yeah, I mean, he's kind of also must buy for cheap if I especially in hardcover. But I don't really think that book has like any. I mean, it might be worth $10 or something. But I got Tracks by Erdrich. Now I was tempted to buy a shit ton of Erdrich because I just read her Pulitzer-winning book, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of it. Like I read it like 2 or 3 months ago. It's The Night Watchman, right? Yeah. And but this one was in hardcover, vintage-ish looking, so grabbed that. I got Ian Fleming's Master Spy, James Bond in Roll of Honor by John Gardner. So this is another book that I kind of bought because I've never seen it. I don't think it's not very rare. It's not even valuable, but it looked valuable. So I got Born on the 4th of July by Ron Kovic. Cool, like vintage looking paperback. Okay, Philip Roth, Deception. Philip Roth, Nemesis. Philip Roth, Every Man. Beck is Back by John Updike. Another guy that, you know, I contemplated getting a lot of paperbacks. I only bought the one hardcover that I was able to, or that I, lucked across or whatever. The Beach by Alex Garland. Love the film. Want to read the book. I don't know. It was $1.25. The Member of the Wedding, Carson McCullers. Never heard of this. Really, really enjoyed reading The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. So maybe it was short. And Going Native by Stephen Wright. All right, we're getting close. We're getting there. An Exchange of Eagles, Owen Selah. Same reason the other one that we talked about. Slade House by David Mitchell. The Girl in a Swing by Richard Adams, author of Watership Down. So this is another one I thought was going to be worth something. It's not really. It's a book club edition, but vintage of The Spy Who Came in from the Cold by John Le Carre. And my understanding is this is like his biggest book. I don't know. Anyway, we talked about Gene. Got another one there. Children of the Night by Dan Simmons. As you can see, I didn't really come across a shit ton of horror, but that is definitely one. The Summer Before the Dark by Doris Lessing. Look, if it's an author that I've heard of, I think she, like, her, like, best book or her, like, award-winning book or well-thought-of book is, I might be wrong, I want to say The Golden Notebook. So I know Doris Lessing's name. I haven't read it, but again, if I see one of their books, like one of those people's books in hardcover, it's generally a grab. Gilead by Marilyn Robinson. This is on my list for the near future because it's a Pulitzer winner. It's not in great condition, but it is a hardcover, and I only had a paperback, so grabbed that. I thought this one was cool. Found it in the mystery room. Prisoners at the Bar, an account of the trials of William Haywood, Sacco and Vanzetti, Leopold and Loeb. So it's like murder trials, but it's like they're like the documentation of their trials. It is a first edition published in 1952. It was $1.25, and Now it's gonna haunt some corner of my house. I've read Tuesdays with Maury, didn't have it, grabbed it. I got a book of William Blake poetry. We got two more left. Indignation by Philip Roth. And I've heard a shit ton about this book. It's supposed to be awesome. I've never read it. It is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. So that's it. I don't know if you kept count. It was a lot of books. I walked out of there with a lot of books, like 60 some odd, and I had an absolute blast. And my wife didn't love it, but I think she loved how much I loved it. And I said, look, this isn't the type of place, you're going to come once a month, but maybe once a year. So very enjoyable, fun weekends. Got some coffee, browsed some books, um, brought them all home like a bunch of stray puppies. But these books won't shit in the floor like the dogs do. So anyway, I'm happy. I hope you're happy. I hope you're having a fine Monday. This has been Well Red Beard. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're enjoying all your books, all of them, as much as I am. If not, you're reading the wrong damn books.